Hey, this is Neil from masterpaintingnow.com, and you want to get better at drawing noses? Well, then you got to do this. You must attempt to sculpt the nose. You're like, I don't want to be a sculptor. I don't want to sculpt stuff. I understand that. If you just want to draw, I'm telling you, attempting to sculpt the nose or sculpt anything is going to help you draw it that much better because it paints a full three-dimensional picture of what the thing is that you're drawing. I wish I would have taken sculpting more seriously in my younger career so that I would have gotten better at drawing faster. You can look at all the great masters and artists. They were all good at sculpting as well, or at least they knew how to sculpt, or at least they learned sculpting. Now, even if you don't attempt to sculpt, just watching this video is going to make you better at sculpting. Now, if you want the more breakdown, the longer breakdown of this, where I go into it in more detail, then you want to check my other channel. The link's in the description for my other channel. Check that out. It's new, and go ahead and leave a like and everything. Subscribe. I'm going to try to build that channel up. All right, so it's going to be more focused around sculpting stuff. So the first thing we do is want to put a mask here. Now, I'm using ZBrush, but you can use Blender, which is free. So you can actually do this for free to learn how to do it, to at least attempt it. If you at least attempt to sculpt a nose, I guarantee it's going to bring a better understanding to you for drawing the nose. So you want to put a triangle like this, kind of similar to a skull, but a little bit longer. And then I decided I'm not going to blur it out. You want to reverse it. To reverse it, you just click on the outside while holding down, I think, the key, whatever, for the mask button. And then want to pull it out. So I'm just going to show you really fast. We're going to go through a quick breakdown of the nose here. Like I said, if you want the longer tutorial, go to my other channel. But you want to just kind of pull out the basic shape of the nose, kind of blur it out. And what's important here is that you recognize the shapes that are happening. So from the side view, you have this kind of triangle plane. And thinking about it in these basic shapes and kind of memorizing those basic shapes from these different angles, if you can draw that, then you can add on the details to it from any angle when you're drawing. So you have then you have this front view. And then what I like to do is I like to carve out the nostrils from the form that's already there. So you take away material and that reveals the nostrils there. Now from the underside here, we'll go a little bit further. So from the front view, when you draw, you don't want to like draw little balls here, right? Just kind of have this whole entire shape here, and then you can add some of the detail lines into that shape. Now, which lines you choose comes with artistic, style, and then from the side view, you can see that shape again. You have this little indent right here, which is important to know. But again, this is just a quick overview. You want to look at my other channel to watch the full lesson. And another thing that's important you'll see here, and I point this out in the lesson, is this center part of the nose extends farther down than the nostril. The nostril is up a little bit higher. So from the side view, this is on this plane and this is on this plane. Drawing that is super important to get that right. And if you understand the three-dimensional aspect of the nose, then you'll be able to draw it right. Also, it's important to note that the lip here extends past the nostril. A lot of people, they draw and or sculpt the nostril right here, and that's not correct. So the lip extends up into the nose, about 1/3 of the nose. Sometimes it's even up here to like a half of the nose, but typically it's about 1/3 of the nose. But never is it here. Right, so this line and this line should not be parallel to each other. That's important. And then speeding through here, adding the philtrum. The bottom of the nose looks like a triangle, as you can see. So it kind of comes up like first you want to just have a triangle like we had in the beginning, but notice that it's sitting on the nose sits on a round plane, and this is really important when you're drawing, that you think about the round plane it's on, especially depending on the angle that you're drawing the nose from. So from this more up angle, you can see the roundness of the face here, right? It's a cylinder. The whole entire, all these shapes, the lips are fitting on a cylinder, right? They're not just sitting on something flat. So you got to think about the nose is sitting on a cylinder. See that? That's curved line right here. This is not straight, it's curved. So keep that in mind when you're drawing. And then you have this kind of triangle shape, kind of goes up, dips in a little bit, and you have the ball of the nose like that, right? So that triangle shape is really important. You want to make sure that you draw that. We're going to speed through some of this here. And then you have the planes of the nose, which are added. You want to think about that you have this kind of flat plane right here, and then it kind of dips forward toward us when you saw from the side view. But you can kind of see these kind of hard lines here, and then it comes into like the ball of the nose. And there's a bunch of different nose shapes that you can do. And here from the front view is you want to see that separation. You want to make sure you have these side planes here. It doesn't just come straight down. It has an angle to it. That's why you can see this, right? Because if it was just straight up and down, you wouldn't be able to see these angles here. That is, if this was like a box of cereal facing the sideways, you wouldn't see the side planes, right? You would just see this plane here. But the fact you can see both these planes, even though you're viewing it from front view, shows that these are slanting outward like that. So this is more like a skateboard ramp where you're riding right here, you hit the ramp, boom, you jump in the air and you land on this side, right? So these are slanted. Hopefully that makes sense. And we're going to speed here. And I want to show that these parts all connect. And again, I'll explain this in the actual tutorial. Go and check it out on the other channel. But you can see that you have this kind of connects into this, all this, and then there's this indent right here between all of this. It's almost like you can scoop out the clay right here. Right, so when drawing the nose, there's a couple things you want to keep in mind. And that is, think about this being a ramp, like I talked about. It goes up like this, goes flat, and then goes down like that. You want to think about it as a ramp. So if you're viewing it from if you're like looking up at it, you have the nose. You have the nose like this. You're kind of looking up. You have this kind of triangle shape. This, you're kind of looking up at the nose, and you'd have, obviously the nostrils in here. But let's just think about it like this for right now. You have this kind of flat part, that's this part right here. Then you have these two side planes right there and there, and those are usually going to be in shadow, at least to some degree, because the light usually is going to be shadowing these a little bit. Right, and that's that shape. You want to think about this shape right here. It's important. A lot of people forget this aspect of it. And so when you're drawing the nose, you can pick and choose the details that you want. But one thing to kind of think about is if you think about sculpting, you think about that basic shape, right? Remember that I told you the shape we started with here? That kind of basic shape right there? Well, you can come across right here like this, and you have this kind of basic shape like that. Then you can think about, okay, well, I have this kind of bridge coming down the center right here. Right, and then I have those two edges. We can kind of start putting those in shadow a little bit. You don't have to obviously draw like this, but to think in these terms. And then you have this kind of, think about this triangle shape that kind of comes underneath right here, like this. Think about the center line right about here. You have this kind of, well, maybe not that far, maybe more like right about here. This kind of triangle shape underneath. We can put all that in shadow. And having this as a foundation is great. So then you can go, okay, well, I have this button part of my nose. And so sometimes it looks good just kind of do these kind of straight lines like this, and then kind of come across right about here. And this will be this kind of button part like that. Put that in shadow. And then you're going to have this under part that goes like this that we talked about. And remember, that under part goes under further than the actual flares of the nostrils. So let's kind of erase some of that. So the flares of the nostrils kind of come up higher on a higher plane here, like right about here, like so. And then this right here will be the flange of the nose. And by having it all inside this shape, you're not going to get too big. Right? It's going to be the size you want it. And the size of this line here, this horizontal line right here, is going to fit right here. Vertical lines are going to go right up to the edge of the eye there. And then you're going to have this top part. And so basically we're starting out with this shape right here, like that. And if you have that basic shape down, you can fit the nose, whatever kind of nose style you want, into that shape. So you can have like the button part of the nose here, you can have that kind of part of the, just a little bit of that filter you might be able to see. Right, you can have this more straight like that, and you have, boom, the, right, so then you can have the shadow over here. Depends on what, how the light is coming a little bit here. Right, and then you can decide how much of this, you want to make sure you have this shape up here. This is an important shape. That's always using a little bit of shadow. And maybe just add a little bit of this line and maybe a little bit of this curved line up here like that. Maybe even have a little bit of shadow come on just this side, and this side you can just represent like that. And it depends on what lines you want to show or not show. And then I'm going to have all this under here in shadow like this. And you can have this kind of another cool line to think about. Let me go ahead and can I change my eraser to I think it's on hard right now. I might be able to, can I? Nope, it's on really hard. I'm just going to pick a different, something like this. Nah, I don't want that one. Yeah, it's going to turn it more of a blur tool now. Alright, so I just picked one of these, the default eraser here. Now I can just kind of erase some of this here so you can kind of... Right, so then you'd pick the, the different things that you want to be visible. So let's say we want the button nose. We want a little bit of this edge right here, and we want that to kind of be visible like this. And I can put that in shadow. And a little bit of this part of the button nose right here, and maybe even do a couple lines right here. You might represent this curve here, maybe a little bit of that, a little bit of the nose here and here. I want to represent some of this under flange and part of the nostril here, like this. Have that part come out. I'm going to have all this in shadow like this. All this will be in shadow. Maybe to like there. Maybe to there. Right? And you can decide, what parts do you want to emphasize on the nose or not. Maybe have a little bit of shadow like this on this side of the nose, just to kind of, and maybe we'll go like that. And then you'll have the eyes and everything. And of course the nose by itself is going to look a little bit strange. Now remember, this comes up at like this and it kind of dips down like that for the lips, right? So that philtrum is like an indent, and you want to represent that indent. So you got to know what three-dimensional shapes you're representing. If you don't know what three-dimensional shapes you're representing, right, then you're not really drawing. You're kind of just like, what's the difference? Like, it's hard to explain how it feels so much different once you understand the three-dimensional shapes. But once you know like the three-dimensional shapes, like what it is you're drawing, it's easy to kind of figure out how to shade it and what to represent it as and how to draw it. Versus if you don't know that and you're just trying to memorize three-dimensional, like you're trying to memorize shape symbology or something, like you're trying to memorize different styles of noses, and you're really just memorizing shape symbol. You're like, how do I word it? You're memorizing symbols. Yeah, there we go. You're just memorizing symbols. You're like, what do lips look like? Well, it's a symbol you memorize, right? You memorize a symbol. They go up like this. They go like this. They come down like this. You have this kind of shape right here, and it comes over like this. Then you're going to have the bottom lip, which might be like a button lip like this, right? And that's that shape symbology. But why do you have this little, dark area right here and right here? Why is it you have these three shapes, or sometimes you might learn it as the two shapes down here. Sometimes you'll learn like there's a line here, then often you'll have highlights here. Well, why is it that way? Like, why are all these things that way? Sometimes this will be shaded underneath. Well, if you learn the three-dimensional structure of things, you'll know why you're doing all this. Why do you have this shape symbols here? And sometimes you'll have a line like that, and then maybe have a little bit of a shadow like this. But this is backwards, right? Why is that backwards? Well, because I have the light coming from this direction over here, right? And if the light is coming from that direction over there, that's why all the shadows are on this side. This is like a ball, so the shadow's on this side of the ball, right? If I had a ball right here, and the light's coming, the highlight's going to be like here, and all this part is going to be in shadow, right? Well, it's opposite when you have a dip. If I have a dip somewhere inside of something, the shadow's going to be opposite, right? So if I had a ball down here like this, and the light's hitting it like this, but then I had a dip somewhere, let's say this was a hole in the ball. Well, the shadow's going to be on this side, right? So this is the ball. Add some shadow on that side like this. Right? This is a hole in the ball, like it's like a dip. See, it's dipping down into it. Well, the shadow's going to be opposite way. Well, this is going up like this, and it's dipping down like this. So the light is actually going to be hitting this side of it. And the shadow side is going to be on this side here, like that. So I can do that little bit of shadow like that. And then maybe I don't want to represent this side over here because there's no need to, because that's in the light. Right? And I'm like, okay, cool. So let's just kind of have this part here, a little bit of shadow, and it doesn't come all the way down because why don't I draw that line coming all the way to the tip of the lip? Because there's this part here, and when you think about the lip in 3D right here, that kind of comes from the side view. It kind of comes like this. You have the philtrum, the lip kind of comes like this, and it comes down, boom, right? And you have this shape like that, and then you have the bottom lip, which is at an angle, and it kind of goes like this. And you have that little dip in here, and you get to the chin. So the philtrum is right there. Then you have this little part of the lip that kind of starts sticking out, and that's why sometimes you have that what's called like the milk line right here. This is often lighter where the light's hitting it. It's because you're understanding the three-dimensional shapes. So really, like, learning how to sculpt the face is going to help you so much more. And if you've enjoyed any of this at all and you think it's going to help you, then definitely watch the longer video on the other channel. But also I'm going to be posting more videos on there to help you, and you can leave requests and stuff, and I'll start posting that for sculpting so they can learn sculpting. If you want to sculpt, it's great for sculpting. If you want to learn how to draw, it's going to make you draw better. It's going to help you understand everything, the three-dimensionality of everything, that much better. Even if you don't attempt to sculpt, even if you just watch the video, it'll help you tremendously. But if you actually attempt to do it, it's going to help you that much more. And stay tuned for my upcoming course. By the time you watch this, it might already be out. And so go to masterpaintingnow.com, and on the homepage, I'll be advertising the new course, which is going to be Anatomy 3D, or Anatomy 3.0, or maybe 3D Anatomy for artists, for sculpting and drawing, maybe just for sculpting, I'll call it that, but it's also really good for drawing. Anyway, so that'll be coming out very, very soon. I'm almost done uploading everything. Well, I got everything uploaded. I just got to do the trailer and stuff. So, yeah, anyway, leave a comment on what you like to see in the future.